Hello everyone, in today's video we're going to be showing how you can adjust the size of ground units in Command Modern Operations. So for this one, we've created a relatively straightforward, pretty simple scenario to kind of show you what the different components actually mean here. So what we're going to do is we're going to head up over to our view options, and we're going to skip that and go right to game options. Hit that one, and we're going to go all the way over to map display. Now you have a bunch of different display options here, some of which of course will give you the ability to sort of adjust the type of map symbols, changing the cursor data box visibility. We've gone through several of these in the past before. But one of the things that's a relatively new feature that a lot of people have missed out on is the fact that you can now change the size of ground units. I'll go ahead and pause my scenario here so we can play with this one. Keep in mind, whenever you're doing any of this work, you're not going to be doing this with anything other than the NTDS NATO APP6. If you do any of the other styles, for example, if I do directional stylized here, you'll notice it'll change the style of my units. It's not really going to do much for us. And again, we'll see why in a second here. So what I'm going to do here is come down to where it has these four options: ground unit zoom, icon zoom, rectangle, and flower shape. Now you're probably sitting here going, what do these have to do with anything? Well, it actually has a lot to do with a lot of things. And for those of you who are not familiar with the NTDS, let me go ahead and open this one up real quickly here. Each different type of side has a different distinctive shape. Which you'll probably notice here is like our players are going to be rectangles, neutrals are going to be kind of squares, hostiles will be diamonds, unfriendlies are going to be this, and of course our flower shape comes with our unknown units here. And that's what we're referring to with these different icons. For example, I notice the fact that I have my ground units here. So I'm going to grab my rectangle zoom and I'll click and drag that. You'll notice I can now make my boxes gigantic if that's something that I want to do. So go ahead and restore that back to a normal size. Now for my flower shape icon, I would need a neutral unit that's ground. That's hard to do because usually identify ground units as soon as you see them. But for the diamond, we can take a clear look at our buddy over here, that SAM group. So if I were to grab this and make this one bigger, it will change the size of enemy diamond shape units. Grabbing this one, of course, changes the size of everybody's units. So it kind of gives you an idea of what that can do directly. Now there's another cool thing that we have on this one, which is kind of fun to play with as well. And that's the fact you have the ability to go ahead and show color data blocks. And now for those of you who've not played with this one before, what this does is when I click on a red unit, it'll actually turn it red. You'll see the text itself turns red. When I turn on a neutral unit, it'll actually turn kind of that green. If I type in one of the friendly units, you'll notice it'll turn blue when that particular unit is selected. Now the cool thing with that, of course, is if I come to my gammon here, if I right click on this one and say set this neutral, you'll notice it'll actually change its color to that green to be able to identify it. Obviously, if I make it unfriendly and orange, you can see that that's going to change to that shape. We go right back to mark hostile again. You can see it absorbs that shape as well. So these are all useful tools for you. Now, of course, if we want to have a little bit of fun here, let me go directional stylized real fast. And if you were to start grabbing these things, you will notice it will still change the size of these style units, but it will not change the style of other units like that. Another thing worth noting is if you are changing the zoom, you are changing the zoom of all of your units at one time. Now, what you're probably saying is, okay, that was a pretty cool thing. Oh, that's good to know. I didn't realize I could play with that. I especially like the red text here. By the way, this little icon thing, if you shut this off, this really does save a few frames if you are worried about in-game performance. It actually works out pretty well. But one of the things that I really find kind of interesting about this is when you start getting out to here, obviously we're in the Falklands today because I needed a really, really big distance to work with. That was simple. You'll see here that as soon as I go ahead and click some of these items, that it causes some other issues. Namely, that once you get out to a certain zoom level, you're going to start finding that things get very, very difficult to see. You know, if I go like this, I can't tell you how many individual units I've got down here. Just one gigantic, massive rectangle. And the other thing that's worth noting, too, is when you start playing with this, is it will not make it easier to select a unit. For example, if I zoom way, way, way down here, let's make these things double size. You will think that you'd be able to click on the unit from this corner here, but you'll see no matter how many times I click, it doesn't. You still have to actually select the center of the unit. It's not even the center of the unit that you're selecting. You're actually selecting the upper center of the unit when you have to click on it. So it's just kind of one of those little quirks that by making them bigger and easier to see like that, especially if you're creating specific kinds of missions, it does help with certain things, but you can also notice that it is just nice to be adjustable in general. Enjoy.